The High Court of Johannesburg has ruled that anti-apartheid activist Ahmed Timol was murdered while in police custody. This historic ruling follows a nearly 50-year-long battle for justice by the family of the murdered human rights activist and freedom fighter. Security police claim Timol committed suicide by jumping off the 10th floor of the Johannesburg Central Police Station, then known as the notorious John Vorster Square.Imtiaz Cajee is the nephew of Ahmed Timol. He, together with many others, have campaigned long and tirelessly over the years in search of the truth behind his uncle's death. He joins us now from our Pretoria studios, and Marjorie Jobson is the National Director of the Kulumani Victim Support Group, which has also been very closely involved with the case. She joins us on the desk in Johannesburg. Good afternoon to you both, Marjorie and Imtiaz in Johannesburg. Imtiaz, it's been almost a 5-decade long protracted legal battle. How are you feeling at this point? Relieved, vindicated perhaps, that Ahmed Timol's dignity is finally restored?
Yes, it's been a difficult day, Krishni, very emotional. One is filled with lots of mixed emotions. Elation on the one hand that we've managed to get the inquest findings reversed, but troubled on the other hand that the security branch officers had an opportunity to make full disclosures and give us the valuable answers that we are searching for. And they've decided not to come clean, and hence Judge Billy Motley has ruled that they must be investigated. But at the end of the day, we are relieved. It's a very significant milestone that we've accomplished. But this is only the beginning, not the end, as there are many, many other families that are still searching for closure.
We are joined by Marjorie Jobson. Marjorie, we want to get a sense of the meaning and relevance of Ahmed Timol's life and times. Just give us some insight into what Timol means for contemporary South Africa, especially when it comes to the intellectual heritage he leaves us, and what his life means to a liberated South Africa at this point.
Well, I only know Ahmed Timol through what I've read about that's been written about him, although I'm 10 years younger than he would have been at this stage. What I've read is of a very, very articulate, thoughtful, compassionate young man who stood up from very, very early on at school for issues of justice, for issues of inclusion, for issues of diversity. You know, he would object to, for instance, clubs being only Muslims. So he managed always, and it's something that young people have a very great sense of this, an inherent sense of what's fair. And I think that's what young people need to tap into, because that's what Ahmed Timol modeled for us.
Imtiaz, if I can just come back to you, Judge Billy Motley earlier during that judgment calling for families who lost relatives in similar circumstances to be assisted in the reopening of their cases, especially when suicide was recorded as the official cause of death. Just tell us about the opposition you faced when trying to re-examine this case over the years.
Look, you know, we cannot forget that the TRC hearings that were held in 1996 was a perfect platform for victims and perpetrators to reconcile. And in the Timol case, as in many other cases, we only heard the harrowing stories of victims, and perpetrators failed to come forward. So when my grandmother testified, none of the security branch officers were ever subpoenaed, or none of them ever came forward to apply for amnesty. In 2002, when I requested the National Director of Public Prosecutions to reopen and reinvestigate the Timol matter, this was unsuccessful. And hence, these were golden opportunities that were lost, because those perpetrators would have provided us with valuable information as to what had transpired. And hence, we had to go the route of getting the Foundation for Human Rights, through the assistance of their chairperson, Yasmin Suka, who managed to acquire the necessary funding, and we conducted our own private investigation. And this laid the foundation for the National Director of Public Prosecutions to reopen this particular matter. And the challenge is that many, many other families don't have the resources to embark on such initiatives.
Imtiaz, I remember listening to your grandmother's powerful, emotive testimony as a young journalism student, and today it resonates even more deeply as a parent. And clearly you're not satisfied with that TRC process. What's the next step for your family as one gets a sense that it's less about prosecution and more about closure at this point? Of course, you do need time to study the judgment more closely.
No, most certainly. Obviously, we need to study the judgment, but the quick analysis of the findings by Judge Balimotle is that the 3 security branch officers must be investigated by the National Prosecution Authority. And hence, this is our urgent plea that this must be done with speed due to their, to their old age. So that's a priority, that it's a process that must initially and quickly embark on. But parallel to that, I'm still embarking on other initiatives, to deal with other issues pertaining to my uncle's arrest, which are very critical in our view. And these are issues that we intend tabling in the second manuscript that I'm working on, Kershni.
Marjorie, Kulumani Support Group has been very closely tied in with this case, and it does bring to mind a case like the disappearance of Nokuthula Simelane, the young activist. Are we likely to see more cases like this opened up and being brought to the forefront? And are we likely to see the Timol case follow the prosecution route that the Simelane case did?
There are 12 cases that have been almost fully investigated that are lined up for tabling with the NPA, and the decision strategically was not to overload them with a lot of cases when there'd been so much resistance to taking up these issues. But I think where we are in the country now, and where the students are, students calling everybody to account, we've got an atmosphere that really supports opening these things up and getting the truth fully disclosed, which is all, it is the beginning of healing for victims. And we have, we've had so many people approach us. I know Imtiaz had people come forward to say, maybe there's hope for our case, and with Nokuthula especially, that case has been prolonged unbearably through the attempts by these alleged murderers to get the state to pay their legal costs. So there's always this issue of people finding legal loopholes to prolong these cases coming to any kind of sense of conclusion. This is one that we're very glad has had such a good outcome for the family.
Imtiaz, very quickly, we are running out of time now. How would you respond to some who might argue that you are opening up now a can of worms that will do more harm to the reconciliatory process in the country than good, and serve to polarize South Africans in a time when we should be working together toward national reconciliation?
Well, this was a perfect opportunity for the security branch officers to have demonstrated that by them coming clean, we would have found closure as a family, and we would have set a landmark for other perpetrators to have come forward. The intention is never to polarize our society or to incite racial tension, but rather the contrary. We cannot move forward as a country unless we address and resolve our tragic history, and the case of Ahmed Timol is just one of many that families throughout the length and breadth of this country are yearning, seeking closure for.
Thank you, Imtiaz. Marjorie, before I let you go, the SACP this morning calling for government to set up a process to deal more effectively with cases like this. What should that process look like, and what are some of the main considerations we should take into account?
Well, we believe that the TRC closed prematurely when it closed on the 14th of December 1997, and we have many recommendations about community-based hearings, processes that we really need, because there will not be reconciliation without the truth. And we've just done a very intense process with the leadership of the Dutch Reformed Church, which actually got to grips with the depth of the pain that people carry on all sides in this country. So we need these kinds of opportunities.
Thank you, Marjorie Jobson. That's Marjorie Jobson and Imtiaz Cajee joining us from our Pretoria studios. Thank you to you both for your time on the SABC News Desk.